I don't work in this industry to disrupt the system. I work in this industry because I'm concerned that the system might fail us. And if it does, we need backups. I'm not here to like tear anything down. I'm here to build safety nets. How did I end up here? Well, I guess the story for me was through video games. I grew up playing games as a kid, which led me to collectible card game markets like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. And then through that game playing, when persistent worlds emerged, where you had things like World of Warcraft, EverQuest, Second Life, so on and so forth. Because the objects or digital currency in those games was alienable, markets emerged. And I recognized pretty quickly that just because something is intangible doesn't make it any less valuable. Does it provide you with utility? Does it improve your social status? Our human behavior doesn't really change whether we're in the analog or the digital world. And so I recognized that there were people that had expendable income but lacked discretionary time and vice versa. And so I became a market maker essentially of in-game objects, and this is in, call it late 1999, 2000, 2001, and built a business called IGE along with a bunch of other things and taught hundreds of thousands of people how they could play video games professionally to make money. We were PayPal's largest merchant for years, Google's largest advertiser for a moment. We helped launch Alipay, and so we got very good at kind of cross-border payments. We processed, well over $10 billion of transactions, and so that naturally led to, cryptocurrencies. When Bitcoin first emerged, people were like, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "Well, that or something like it is the future. The only question is it now or 25 years from now?" And so in 2012, enough sort of activity was happening around the space that my conviction around the now became very clear, and so I started dropping everything I was doing and immersed myself, entirely in this space. And so I've started a bunch of, been involved in the creation of a lot of projects, from Mastercoin, which was the first ICO, Blockchain Capital, the first sector-focused venture fund, Tether, the first stablecoin, BCAP, the first security token, EOS, the largest ICO, and I'm, trying to do everything I possibly can. And so my why is, I have very limited time on this planet in this vessel, and I want to make the most of it. I want to make the biggest possible positive impact, which is obviously open to interpretation. I view life a little bit like a game, the game of life, having come from a gaming-based background. And so rather than measuring my success by the amount of money or things that I've accumulated, possessions that possess me, I've devoted my life to impact, and that's how I measure my success. And so I'm trying to be as of service as one can possibly be, and grateful for the opportunity to be here and talk with you. I don't think democracy is done. I mean, as a concept of people having a voice and a say in what happens to them, the democratic experiments that civilization has been testing are not working, I think, as intended. And so like all things, we're here to continually improve and upgrade things. But the concept of governance and people having a say, I think, is important. And so we have new tools. And with these new tools, hopefully we can build a better system, one that's built on freedom and fairness, one that's built on sovereignty, one that's volunteer-based, where we choose, those things we support.
How does that look like? It's like rubber to the road. How does that work?
Well, I can envision a future where we have things that look more like city-states, where you're like, okay, this city or this area has a set of rules that have been formed through the consensus opinion of the people. However, that is tested, and there'll be many experiments. And then with choice, I say, okay, this is a community, this is a tribe that resonates with me, that I identify with, and I want to spend time there until such time as it doesn't resonate with me, and then I might move over to another tribe. And there might be many places in the world that feel right to me. And so,
and they don't have to be all geographically based either, right? Like the internet.
Correct. I mean, you can belong to many tribes, and we can have global tribes where, most of the things I wear are symbols of different groups of people that I identify with. And so obviously there's geographic limitations and rules that may exist in those places. And then also there might be communities of people like the Bitcoin community that's a global community where we have a shared belief system, shared consensus. It's all sort of faith-based. All value is derived from consensus. The only reason anything has value is because two or more people agree it has value. If you're the only person that believes in something, it's just you. And there's not going to be a market for that. And so hopefully, we form consensus around the things that we have shared belief in. Ideally, we evolve without some sort of chaotic crash. Evolution is much more pleasant than revolution, less violent, less chaotic, and hopefully we upgrade our systems before our systems fail us. Change is inevitable. It's the only constant. And so we are going to change, and the question is how much pain do we have to undergo to get there? And that really comes down to the collective consciousness of humanity. If we all upgrade ourselves enough to the point that we can do this peacefully and lovingly, we're all better off, but that change is likely going to come whether we want it or not. Systems are going to upgrade out of necessity. And we live in a world right now where the way that we live as a species is not sustainable. I refer to myself as a conscious capitalist because unbridled capitalism had one flawed assumption, and that was that there were infinite resources. And it's clear we don't have infinite resources. And so I do things not because I can, but because I should. And because I've asked myself the question, why? Why am I doing this? What impact is the thing that I'm doing going to have on others? And I don't want negative impacts. I want things to be as good as possible, though I make mistakes, and I learn from those mistakes, and I wake up the next day, and hopefully I'm a little bit better for it. But it's how do we collectively choose to do this? And if enough of us come to the realization that change is necessary, and enough of us get behind that, I think that we can change things in a peaceful fashion. It's like in this sort of environment, a lot of conversation around government and government being potentially the enemy. Government is the system that we have based upon a set of systems and experiences that we had that got us to where we are. And humanity is pretty good right now, better than it's probably ever been. So it isn't all bad. And the government isn't a singular, entity. It's comprised of people. And comprised of people that are part of what is called the status quo. And we often fear change because we don't know if that change is going to be good for us, and we fear that which we don't understand. And the way that we combat change or fear in that sense is through knowledge. And so just through my own conversations with people in government and call it the status quo, the incumbent system, through every one of those conversations where you impart knowledge and information, you start to dissipate fear. And through that dissipation of fear and understanding, more and more people are saying, yeah, I agree that we need a change, that the path that we're on is not sustainable and it's going to lead to collapse. And so every day, more and more people are waking up to the fact that we can change and we need change. And so, continue to go out there, continue to record these conversations, continue to get the message out, because they're not my words, they're our words. We're a collective consciousness. Real freedom requires an upgrade in consciousness. To some extent, we're not really ready for real freedom. We have to have systems and walls to kind of protect us from ourselves to some extent, because many of us are not really ready for the responsibility that comes with that. And if we want real freedom, we have to free ourselves. And that freeing of ourselves comes from increasing our consciousness, increasing our awareness, and recognizing that our actions have an impact, and to be responsible for the things that we do. Cryptocurrencies require, responsibility. And the more we can teach people to be responsible, I think the better off we all are. That in itself is, one mechanism to upgrade our consciousness, right? I'm really concerned about the polarization that's sort of happening in the world. It feels like the division or the separation of humanity is becoming more divided. Even just in the US, the separation between left and right, red and blue, is people are not even willing to listen to another person's different perspective. You're with us or you're against us kind of mentality. And that's kind of scary when we're not willing to listen to people that have different perspectives, which after hearing them out, we may say, I don't agree with you. We can agree to disagree. But if we aren't willing to take a seat at the table and share our perspective and why we feel a certain way, why we think a certain way, it's a scary thing. I believe in building bridges versus burning bridges. I believe in having compassion for everyone. We are at a place where we really need to be, I think, willing to engage with other people that are different than us. And I hope that each and every one of us, in our own individual lives, can make a little bit more of an effort not to be triggered by others, but to hear others out. Listening and sitting with people that are different than you is a good thing. I believe that I am you and you are me, and that we're experiencing this, call it consciousness simulation, which simulation really understates the magnificence of this reality, but it's a simple way of trying to describe this consciousness simulation. We're in this reality with our sort of 3D lenses, viewing the world from our own individual perspectives, but we're collectively learning together. I believe in a unified consciousness. I believe we're all one. And I don't just mean us as human beings. I mean the whole thing. We're all the children of the earth, Mother Earth. It's also trying to respect her. We only have one of them. Let's try and be a little respectful of the fact that we all need to live here, hopefully for a very long time, and that we need to be stewards of this planet for our children and their children. Try to leave a better world. I don't think that the financial system is sustainable in its current, track. It's, an emperor has no clothes. As long as the music keeps playing, we're okay. But if the music stops, it's a game of musical chairs. And it's not like the game where there's just one seat removed. Most of the seats are removed, and there's not nearly enough seats for everybody. And that's another reason things like cryptocurrency are important. I don't work in this industry to disrupt the system. I work in this industry because I'm concerned that the system might fail us. And if it does, we need backups. I'm not here to tear anything down. I'm here to build safety nets because I can envision a future where it's needed. And back to that evolution, if we are foreseeing problems before they happen and we start building backups, that might create less trauma and chaos for everybody. I have the utmost respect, for the system itself, for the state. I know I don't know enough. I know very little. But I have enough knowledge to be concerned. And I do what little I can as one little person to prepare us for whatever change may happen. We're in this together. The more we acknowledge that fact and the more we choose to work together, understanding we're all a little different, we're a lot different, we're still pretty similar. Yeah. And try to find our common ground, because you have it with everyone. If nothing else, because you share the same planet.